Welcome to a legacy video from nicfitmtg.com, which is sort of the source for Nic Fit content. This is sort of my first video for the site, so please be gentle in the comments. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about BUG Fair, sort of a blue, green, black variant of Nic Fit. Sort of fair. It's not on any sort of combo plan. It's just sort of using the big blue-green value creatures that are so prevalent in the format right now in Ice-Fang Coatl, Oko, and Uro. It's also got Leovold, which has sort of been around for a while. He's still pretty good. But basically, this deck's on a fair game plan. Try to ramp up, use Veteran Explorer, use Cabal Therapy, get some basic lands, get to Primeval Titan. Primeval Titan with Field of the Dead should be able to close out most games. That's sort of the main game plan here. In order to do that, it's got sort of a pretty standard mana base, 23 lands, including one Dryad Arbor. It's also got a Karakas with no other use for white mana. But I haven't had too many issues with 23 lands. It's got a couple like early card draw in Ice-Fang Coatl. It's got Village Rites as a way to draw some more cards, so I haven't had too many problems with 23 as opposed to 24. So that's been pretty good. It's running 9 fetch lands, so quite a few ways to get green on turn 1, which is sort of the critical. Ideally in Nic Fit, you sort of jam a Veteran Explorer on turn 1, which is great. It did cut 1 Cabal Therapy. It went down to 3. That's because it added 2 Village Rites. Village Rites is sort of the new card from M21. Lets you sacrifice a creature as part of the cost to draw 2 cards. Normally sacrificing a creature is bad, but not in this deck where you just sacrifice a Veteran Explorer, get 2 mana, draw 2 cards, do something on the opponent's end step. You can use it in response to removal to just 2 for 1 the opponent. You can sacrifice a Veteran Explorer to ramp and then cast something. It's been actually pretty good. It's got a couple silver bullet creatures, Collector Ouphe, Scavenging Ooze. It's running 2 Sylvans. Tarmogoyf is worth talking about. Tarmogoyf is sort of not a usual choice for Nic Fit. It's come a little bit back into fashion in 2020. It sort of holds the ground pretty much better than any other 2-drop in the format. It can outclass sort of, Dreadhorde Arcanist. It can just sit there and block opponents' Tarmogoyfs, force them to have another card to answer it. It's bigger than Hooting Mandrills most of the time on turn, 5 or later. So it's a pretty good card. It does sort of make the deck a little bit more vulnerable to graveyard shenanigans. So like Leyline of the Void hits Veteran Explorer, it hits Uro, it hits Tarmogoyf, it hits Meren, it hits Eternal Witness, but I still think it's sort of worth the trade-off. Tarmogoyf's been paying off pretty well as a way to just hold the ground to get to the late game where this deck should be able to outclass most other decks in the format. It did go up to 5 removal spells, which is sort of interesting. It's running 2 Assassin's Trophies, 3 Abrupt Decays. I was running 4 Abrupt Decays for a while, but I decided to go with 2 Assassin's Trophies. One, because I wanted to go up to 5 removal spells. There's just so many haymakers in the format that having an extra one, maybe even an extra 2, is the right answer. But having an extra one is how you sort of maintain parity. If you don't answer an Oko within the first couple turns, it just gets so much value that you'll probably lose the game. So having 5 is a little bit better than 4. Might even want to go to 6 at some point. Assassin's Trophy also handles a few problematic cards that this deck otherwise wouldn't have any real answers to. Karakas is sort of a problem for this deck. It does run 4 legendaries. It's got Uro, Leovold, Meren, Questing Beast, so Assassin's Trophy can just destroy it. It can destroy an opponent's Field of the Dead. It can answer Karn or some other Planeswalker like Jace, so it's been pretty good. 2 Ice-Fang Coatls, again, just help you survive to the late game. Plague Engineers are really good right now. I think they've sort of replaced Pernicious Deed in Nic Fit. Maybe you run 1 Deed, maybe in the sideboard. I don't know. I'm not running any, but Plague Engineer's been really good as a way to just stop tribal decks. Goblins is really popular. Slivers, you see. Humans, you see online. So Plague Engineer can stop them. It can just get incidental value against a bunch of decks. Name human, take out Thalias, take out Moms, take out Dark Confidant. Or it can also deal with Strixes and Ice-Fang Coatls without going down a card. So it's been pretty good. I've been pretty happy with it. It does run only 1 Uro, and it ran 1 Tireless Tracker. I wouldn't fault you for running 2 Uros instead of the Tireless Tracker. I have fetched Tracker over Uro a couple times. When the opponent has a Karakas and you just need a big dumb beater who's gonna get huge and outvalue the opponent. Eternal Witness is pretty standard. Fetches sort of any any answer to any problems you got. Meren just wins the game if it's unanswered. Questing Beast is a good answer to Planeswalkers and other things. Gets over Strixes and Coatls. Primetime is the main top end threat. Can get Karakas, Field of the Dead, Phyrexian Tower. Sort of just puts you in a position where you're generating so much power on the board every turn. Even your land drops turn into 2 power, 4 power if it's a fetch land. It runs another Field of the Dead in the sideboard, so against control it can get 2 fields, which is pretty good. And 4 Green Sun Zeniths just sort of powers out anything, makes it effective. Like you got 5 Primeval Titans, but you can also just Green Sun as a mana dork to get a Dryad Arbor in order to power out an Oko on turn 2 or something like that. So that's sort of the core of the deck. Sideboard has a few other options. From blue, it's running Mindbreak Trap and Back to Basics. These are just sort of answers to problematic decks in the format for this deck. Mindbreak Trap sort of, historically it was a Storm card, but now it hits a bunch of other decks in the format. Charbelcher, I see that from time to time. It hits sort of those Urza Emry decks. They try to power out a bunch of artifacts and then maybe cast like an Echo of Eons. Sort of any Echo of Eons deck, Mindbreak Trap's pretty good against. Leyline's good against those decks too. Against those decks, you frequently want all 6 of these. Back to Basics is good against like lands. It's good against any deck that doesn't run basics, so it's good against, again, like some of the Urza Emry decks. It's also good against Cloudpost, which otherwise this deck sort of has no outs against. Cloudpost is probably the absolute worst matchup. Run Afoul sort of answers depths. It answers it is an answer to Reanimator. It's not the best. It can answer show and tell type decks, so it's pretty good. I was a little skeptical of this card at first. When it was first spoiled, I sort of thought, why would I run this over Liliana's Triumph? It's actually proven to be great. Frequently against depths, they have an Elvish Reclaimer or something still in play, where this will kill Merit Lage, but something like Liliana's Triumph wouldn't. So yeah, I've been pretty happy with Run Afoul actually. Reclamation Sage is just all around good against any deck with meaningful artifacts or enchantments. Field of the Dead is probably the best card you can bring in against any control matchup. Miracles, Snow, Grixis midrange, any of those. Just sort of Field of the Dead. Having a second one, you just get Primeval Titan, get 2 fields. The opponent's gonna die. Every fetch land puts 8 power on the table. They're just like nobody can keep up with that. Some decks can keep up with 1 field. Very few decks can keep up with 2. I've liked the split between 3 Ley Lines and 1 Nile Spellbomb. I like bringing in Nile Spellbomb against a few other decks that use the graveyard, but maybe not as heavily where you really want to go down a card with Ley Line. So this would be against decks like basically anything with Uro or anything like even I sometimes bring this in against Dreadhorde Arcanist type decks. It's not the best in that matchup, but I have brought it in. But it's good against Uro type decks where your card quantity really matters, but you need a way to deal with the graveyard that's not Leyline. And Carpet of Flowers is good. Against sort of Miracles or Snow, you might go down on some number of vets for carpets. On Delver, you just go up more mana acceleration in order to basically make their mana denial plan in Wasteland and Daze worthless. That's sort of the plan with Carpet. It also, you bring it in against Show and Tell because you don't want to ramp them with Veteran Explorer. So you, again, sort of swap Carpets for vets there. That's sort of the deck. I'm going to probably put it through a league over the next couple days. I'm probably not in one sitting, so I'm not going to stream this. But this is the deck I'm going to play, and hope you'll check out the videos when I record them. Thanks a lot.